I got accepted to the Disney College program almost 11 years ago. So let's do my makeup for an event and talk about the application process. To set the vibe, we are also watching my newborn nap on the iPad. I've pulled out my Cinderella candle, which I'm gonna set up right back there. And it really only seemed appropriate to use this as my headband today. You know, we gotta keep the hair out of the face. So I did the Disney College program in spring of 2014, and I was a literal child. I was only a junior in college at the time. I always knew that I wanted to work at Disney because I had been going my entire life. I literally went for the first time when I was maybe 6 or 9 months old. So it's a huge part of my family. Then when I got to college and realized that there was actually a program that would let me kind of get my feet wet, I knew I wanted to do it. My original goal was actually to work in corporate headquarters for the Walt Disney Company, but I figured this was a great way to kind of get my foot in the door. Fall of 2013, I applied and they had this really lengthy application on like their online portal. At the time, there would be like when you logged on to apply, there would be 4 different boxes and it would show like, do you want to work in the parks? Do you want to work in hotels? It had all these different options. Back in the day, you could show what specifically you wanted to go down for. So I fill out my long application and then I show that I have specific interest in working in concierge or guest relations because of the nature of that role. I also had to do the phone interview, which it's a really good thing that I did pageants growing up and now I'm actually a full-time pageant coach. The interview when I was competing was always one of my favorite areas of competition. They didn't really tell you what kind of questions to expect. So I was pretty much going into this interview blind. So I get on the phone interview. Obviously the first question is, tell me about yourself. Obviously I had prepared some things with my dad and I went in feeling really, really confident. Some of the questions were like, why do you think you should work for the company? What do you bring to the table? Tell us about the time you had to work in a team. By far, one of my favorite questions that I got asked was, okay, if you were planning a vacation for, it was like a family of 4, what resort would you put them at and what dining would you suggest for them? And I actually, in response, asked, well, you know, what's the family's budget? What are they looking to spend? Because obviously Disney has a lot of different resort levels. I have lots of recommendations. So if you need recommendations for Disney, I'm your girl. He asked me about my favorite ride, which at the time was Space Mountain because it's a classic, but now it is Guardians of the Galaxy and there is nobody that can fight me on that. That's the best ride. The Disney life basically chose me and happy to be here. We talked about some of my favorite restaurants as well. Obviously we talked about Cinderella's Royal Table because it's Cinderella's Royal Table. My favorite. Hi! We now have a special guest. He heard us talking about Disney and knew he wanted to be a part of it. Finished the interview, pretend the light didn't just go out. Felt like it was forever until I actually heard back. But before you knew it, I got my email. It said accepted and it told me that I had officially been accepted for a concierge and I was so thrilled. They didn't tell you what resort you were actually working at until you got there. So I had no idea at the time, but I was just so excited to be a part of it.